Morning sun streamed through a cracked window pane as 17-year-old Lily Dawson finished feeding the chickens on her family's farm in rural Iowa. Her boots sank slightly in the dewy grass as she walked back to the porch where her father Jacob Dawson sat with 2 cups of black coffee. Their farm had seen better days. Droughts, debts, and the creeping hand of industrial farms had left them hanging by a thread. Still, Jacob smiled at Lily, his pride. "Your mama would be proud of you," he said quietly. Staring at the horizon, Lily's mother had passed from cancer 2 years ago, and since then, father and daughter had become each other's world. Jacob slid a letter across the table. "There's a town hall next week. President Trump will be there," he said. "You should come." Lily's eyebrows raised. "Me? He needs to hear from someone like you." Lily hesitated. She had always admired how her father stayed calm during storms, whether they came from the skies or the banks. But this speaking to a former president? "I don't know what I'd say," she muttered. Jacob looked her in the eye. "Just speak your truth, that's all?" As the wind rustled the wheat fields, Lily had no idea that one conversation was about to shift the soil beneath their future forever. The days ticked by quickly. In the small town of Marshall Ridge, news of President Trump's visit was on every tongue from the diner to the church pews. Flags were raised higher, barns freshly painted, and the community buzzed with nervous excitement. For many farmers like Jacob, this was more than a visit, it was hope arriving in a motorcade. Lily watched as her father cleaned the old pickup truck, his hands weathered from years of work. "We'll leave early," he said, trying to mask his anticipation. Lily nodded, but kept quiet. The idea of speaking to someone like Trump still felt surreal. At school, her friends teased her gently. "You going to tell him to fix the cows or the country first?" One joked, but Mrs. Kersey, her civics teacher, pulled Lily aside after class. "Whatever you say," she said, "say it with heart. Leaders remember what comes from the heart." The night before the event, Jacob sat at the kitchen table drafting bullet points on the farm's challenges, crop insurance, pricing, water rights. But Lily, staring at her reflection, thought of something else. Her dreams, her mother, and the fear of losing everything. That night she wrote her own note, just a few lines. She folded it and placed it in her jacket. On the morning of the town hall, the sky was a deep, unwavering blue. People gathered in front of the old county auditorium, American flags waving and local news trucks lining the road. Secret Service agents checked every vehicle. It felt more like a national holiday than a town hall. Lily and Jacob sat near the front. As the seats filled, a hush fell over the crowd. Then came the roar of a motorcade. Donald Trump, now older but no less commanding, entered the room with a familiar wave and that unmistakable presence. He looked around with a kind of warmth that caught Lily off guard. He wasn't reading off a script, he was listening. Jacob stood and asked a question about water access. Trump answered directly, acknowledging the struggle and promising to bring it back to D.C. But as Lily sat there, her hand gripped the folded note in her jacket. She didn't know why, but her heart pounded louder than the applause. Then something unexpected happened. Before we wrapped, Trump said, "I want to hear from one of the young folks in the room, someone who's going to inherit this land we're fighting for." His eyes scanned, and then they met Lily's. "You," he said, "what do you think?" She froze. Time seemed to pause as the room turned toward Lily. Her legs wobbled slightly as she rose. She didn't have a speech, no statistics, just the folded note in her jacket. Trump motioned for her to take the microphone. Lily swallowed. Her voice trembled at first. "My name is Lily Dawson. I'm 17, and I live on a farm that's been in our family for generations." A pause. The microphone crackled in her shaking hand. "I could talk about the droughts or the debt. But the truth is, I'm scared. Not just of losing our land, but of losing what makes us who we are." The room went silent. "My mom passed 2 years ago. My dad works from dawn to dark, and I watch him pray for rain more than I've ever seen him sleep. I want to be a vet someday, but sometimes I think I'll never get off that farm. Not because I'm trapped, but because we're drowning." Trump listened, arms folded, no interruptions. And I guess I just want to ask, how do you keep believing something good is coming when everything around you says otherwise? That wasn't the question the town expected, but it was the one they needed. President Trump walked forward slowly and gently took the mic from Lilly's hand. There was a long pause as he looked at her, then at the audience. That he said was the most honest thing I've heard in a long time, the crowd murmured in agreement. You asked how to keep believing? He said, you just did. When you stand up and tell the truth in a room like this, you're already stronger.